next thing on our agenda, which is actually something that I've been quite excited about, which is hearing from somebody who's actually been through the whole process of managing or being part of the management team of a solidarity project. So we introduced Desirée to you earlier on, and Desirée is someone who has done that, and so we're very lucky to have Desirée here, who's going to tell you all about the project that you're involved with. Correct? I'm going to spotlight you, actually, if that's okay. Hi.
Hello. Let me just try to share. Okay. So I created a few slides today, so if they have mistakes, I'm really sorry about that. So yeah, my project was called Selling the Mayflower to Equality and Justice. It was a 12-month project. I don't know why I said before that it finished in June. I think it's because the evaluation, like the final evaluation, had to be submitted in June. So that's why I mentioned that. But yeah, this project took place here in London, specifically in Rotherhithe. And it was a project that we created in order to enhance community cohesion by focusing on the local migrant and asylum-seeking community. We decided to use the theme of the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower. Like 400 years ago, it was when the Mayflower ship sailed from Rotherhithe to America, taking 102 passengers abroad. And like right now, there are over like 35 million descendants of that, and that's why it's a symbol of like migrant integration. So we contacted Restorative Justice for International Institute, and they actually helped us with the application process. The reason why we contacted them was because they were in Rotherhithe. They have had experience before with other community cohesion projects. And they also offer certified courses. And some of the courses were very helpful for us as a team and to learn about project management, etc., in order to create this project and make it more valuable. I'm going to talk a little bit about the courses later. So I'm going to talk very little about the project and the activities that we did, and then I'm going to talk more about like what we learned, or at least what I learned with these opportunities. So we decided to do it in Rotherhithe, not only because the relationship that the Mayflower has with Rotherhithe, because it sailed from there, but also because Rotherhithe it's a community that has a lot of division. It's like it has one of the poorest populations areas inside London and the UK, but also has one of the richest ones. So there is a lot of division, and there are a lot of problems as well, because this is starting to develop a lot, but that also brings a lot of migrants and other communities that weren't there before. It was a very like community-centered, family-centered community, and now you have like all these immigrants coming to the area, and that obviously is a great thing for the community, but it's also important to try to, you know, make sure that everyone understands that integration is a positive thing. So yeah, this area has like a higher poverty than the London average, and also a lot of unemployment because of these reasons, and it's also one of the most diverse communities in England. So the project, like our aim with the project was to increase awareness around the issues of migration and asylum, increase cultural awareness, and learn from the contributions that other communities have made to the local area and to London. Bring local people together, and we did this in an exhibition, but we also decided to do a lot of different workshops where we had different asylum seekers, refugees, and and migrants, and we put them together with other different young children from the community. And yeah, we also wanted to provide local youth with social action opportunities and increase partnerships among local NGOs. So in order to create the project, the most important part at the beginning was to prepare ourselves properly. So like make clear who is doing what and why are they doing that. Like, you know, assign clear roles and responsibilities from the very beginning, so you don't have problems in the future because of that. So and also I think it's important in that part, when you're defining the roles and responsibilities, what do you want to gain from this experience as well. Like, obviously you're here because you want to help others, but what do you also want to gain from this opportunity? So maybe you can like put those roles that they're going to have a kind of target into that. So another important thing that we did was to create a visual identity. We decided that even though our project was called like the Mayflower project, it wasn't going to be something that was going to stay there for a long time if we just had like a sheep and the Mayflower, because maybe like right now this year it makes sense because it's 400-year anniversary, but we decided to do like a logo and to put the name that it was like Fred, and we had this little person that it was Fred, and that really helped a lot with like the communications and trying to put people together. And it was really good because I think like the project has also a bigger chance to last for a longer time, because it's not just something commemorating one specific year, but it's something that is going to last for longer than that. So we also had the first meeting with our coach, because we did have a coach as well, and we created a Gantt chart and defined the milestones. It's kind of like the part that I mentioned before. We identified the local youth and art organizations connected with young people. We tried to create a map of all the organizations that were relevant, like organizations who work with refugees, organizations who work with migrants, like with basically everything that we could think of. We created this huge list of them, so we could include them in every single opportunity that we had. And then, yeah, at the end of the day, we created like volunteer opportunities, workshops, an online competition, and an open public exhibition that included youth presentations of our project. And so we had like migrants, and we had 2 migrants and 2 refugees talking about their experiences. 2 of them were part of the project directly, and 2 of them were just there trying to talk about their experience and why it has been important for them to have these kind of opportunities in the area. And we also gave a few prizes to the winners. So in order to make people more aware of what we were creating, we decided, because like the main thing for us was the online competition. We wanted people, which now it's great because we actually got more funding from local funding, so we can continue with the project. And it's great now because with COVID and lockdown, we have been able to continue with an online we have created like online exhibitions. We have created we continue with the online competition, and we are making people in the community, still like keep on doing something during this time. So that's a great thing about the project, that we were able to continue it after everything finished with ESC. So we did different activities, focus on a few different things, but at the same time, like they were all to bring the community together. So we had a few workshops that in April that were focused on recycle, on creating activities, creating art with non-recyclable waste, and trying to make sure that young people knew about the importance of recycling and what happens when you don't recycle, and like the impact on the environment. We also had a few activities where we talked about identity and languages, and like how hard it can be for some people to communicate, and how we cannot discriminate them or bully them because of this, because at the end of the day, if we go to another country, for example, we're going to have the difficulties doing the same. So we also talked about the differences between the different communities. We had a lot of participants from many different countries, and that was amazing. I wasn't expecting to have so many so many countries in one place. So that gave us the opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. And something that appeared here as well was like how young people has been like really affected by, well, I don't want to say, but like Brexit. Even like people from here, like for example, I didn't know that, but how it has affected like even children that were like 6 or 5 years old, because they see the division and they don't understand it. So it was really good to try to talk, bring them together and like try to explain, because a lot of people are losing their friends because they're going back to their countries, or they're, you know, so for children, that's a very hard thing to see. So it was good to make them feel supported, like not only the migrant community, but also those who are from here, who have always been living here, but that are losing part of their identity or are losing their friends because of the issues. So by the end of the project, yeah, we delivered, because we not only focus on the people who applied for the project. I didn't actually apply for the project. I was one of the volunteers who they they decided to bring to do this project. So at the end, I think there were like around 20 volunteers working on this project directly. We created like 20 workshops, the online competition, and then the exhibition where we had a lot of people. We had really good luck. We could do it in a moment where like lockdown wasn't a thing yet. So yeah, we were able to bring a lot of people together, and we also put the art that the children have been doing during the workshops, and also on like a few things that we could print from the online submissions. So everything was there for everyone to see. We also created an ebook and a magazine that we share like everywhere, not only online, but also in like, I think, yeah, we were like everywhere trying to give them magazines and leaving them in like community centers and, well, etc. So there are a few things that I learned, well, apart from like the amazing experience that it was, because I had never had the experience to work in a project. I was like, I know some of you have been already working or have experience volunteering and in youth projects, etc. But I had never had that opportunity before. So for me, it was kind of like having like a first time opportunity to show what I had actually learned in my university. So that was amazing. Like all those things that I learned that are more like for my experience, that's amazing. But then also things that I learned for the project were like, you have to, first thing, you have to promote a lot. And that means everywhere, like in using internet. I mean, you have the website. We created a website, like asking other people to send in their newsletters. You create your own newsletters, create social media, create a Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, add things on LinkedIn, create flyers, go to different community centers, talk to people, literally like everything. Just like get, and it's something that I found was really important was friends and family as well, because they can really help you get your message away there. Maybe they don't have that big group, but because it's their friends and family, they will talk to their friends and family that obviously they're going to give them, like, to do their favor for them because they're friends. So we got a lot more people through like just word of mouth and social media, I think. I mean, we got a lot of videos out and a lot of things that obviously hundreds of people saw. But in order to participate in our project directly, we definitely got more by word of mouth. But all these activities, all these like newsletters that we created, the flyers, like being in the streets trying to distribute the flyers, creating videos. For the videos, VideoScribe, I think it's a great app to use. But yeah, it's just like, just talk a lot and be annoying. Just go to all the organizations, all the possible organizations, and ask them to please promote what you're doing. Then also, what they have been talking about this, but make sure that you know how to evaluate the impact of your project. Prepare a Gantt chart and a theory of change. At least that's what we did, and it was very helpful. We did have to modify the Gantt chart a few times, but it's creating a theory of change, defining your like everything that is going to happen, your outcomes, your like inputs, what you're going to need for every single output. All of that, defining everything from the beginning was very, very, very helpful for us to know what we also wanted to achieve. And it's going a little bit to the point that I was making before. Sometimes as the project progresses, you are kind of having like, you start with the same idea. And at least with what happened with us is that everyone started having their own ideas about how the project was going to change, or like in what direction it was going. And it was because we had the theory of change and we were able to talk and communicate with each other that we could all put the same, like go to the same direction again. So and try to monitor the quality of the results of your project. Try to create in every single activity that you do, try to get feedback from the participants, from the other volunteers who are working with you, from just try to get feedback, like obviously the observational feedback that you're going to get, but talk to people. If you don't have questionnaires, or if you don't think that the activity maybe, or the people are too young, or they cannot answer a questionnaire for any reason, talk to them, interview them, try to see what could have been good. Sometimes for some of our activities, it was better to create like very specific questions. And for some other activities, it was better to just put very open questions for them to just describe. But so try to, figure out what is better for each activity that you're doing. And another thing is that let your project be led also by the users, because we did have to modify, like we didn't have to modify a lot, but some of the activities, the very specific activities that we did, we had to change them because we realized that what the community needed was maybe not 100% what we needed. And this is what I mean, for example, what I was talking before about how the people, people from here have been affected by Brexit, for example. I was really thinking mostly about asylum seekers and migrants. I'm really sorry for everyone who's from here, but I didn't know how much it will affect also like children like that were from here. And so we did have to use a few activities and modify them in order to include them in that narrative and make sure that we were actually providing support for them. So yeah, and another thing is create connections. So with all the people that you talk, try to talk to them, like not only go to an organization. Something that I was able to do because we didn't have a lockdown was like I will go to the organizations directly and try to talk to the people directly and tell them that what we're doing, what is relevant, and maybe they can also help you with some things that they have, and maybe you can like collaborate a little bit there. And it's just talking to the organizations, but also to the community directly, because you create that rapport that if you are just being like this person delivering this project, maybe you're not going to create that much rapport with them if you are not being part of the community with them. So Yeah, that's the last thing is just make sure that your team is strong. Like have enough meetings to make sure that you're going to the same place, but maybe not too many that you get tired of each other. So yeah, those are all like the things that I learned during this.
Desirée, that was fantastic. Thank you. I'll give you a virtual round of applause there.
I don't know how to stop sharing. Okay.
It's okay. There you go. Wow, yeah, thank you very much for a really thorough and interesting kind of perspective on what we've been talking about. Some really good points of advice in there, I think, that really beneficial to hear from the someone who's actually done it. Does anybody want to ask Desirée anything? Has anything that Desirée said made you think that you need to hear some more information? Do you have any questions or comments or concerns about your own projects?
No. I would just like to ask one question, Desirée. What words of advice would you give to the group who are thinking of now applying for a Solidarity project? What words of advice would you give them? Just what springs to mind?
I think like the main advice is what I said. Like the first thing I said is like defining very well like what you are doing, but also who is doing what. So there is no confusion. I mean, obviously, like at the end, like maybe things you can talk about things and they can change, but it's very good to define everything at the very beginning, because if not, it can just be really messy. And I think like particularly now that you are not meeting constantly, you are just like having online meetings that maybe are not good enough to communicate the right information, to have all that in paper, like to have all that, you know, that you can see what you're supposed to do at what time, like, you know, with whom. I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I just think one of the things that Desirée sort of shared that's really, really important is the sometimes the need to have a plan B. Sometimes things change, and always having that plan B is a very useful strategy. Being flexible enough to allow the project to adapt to the needs of the community that you're working with. Yeah, I thought that was good that you mentioned that.
I think that's very relevant given the current circumstances we're in as well. We're seeing a lot of projects that have been inadvertently affected by COVID, and really creative ways in terms of how they get around that major obstacle. But they can do it, so it is something to bear in mind. But yeah, definitely, Paul, I agree.
Right, well, I would like to say a very big thank you to Desirée for coming on and sharing that sort of example. So,
thank you, Desirée.
Thank you.